Morning everyone, welcome to the channel. This is the part 5 of the most expected question series for the linguistics net paper. Let's start. The first question is a term used in grammatical description to refer to a construction which resembles a cleft sentence. So here we are talking about a sentence which resembles a cleft sentence and which is not a cleft sentence. In that a single clause has been divided into two separate sections, each with its own verb, but with the essential difference that the subject is a freestanding WH clause. So how this sentence is different from a cleft sentence? That in this kind of sentence, the subject is a freestanding WH clause. So when the subject is a freestanding WH clause, such sentences are known as pseudo cleft sentences. So we have the option B as the correct answer. For example, we have the sentence you are a fool. So it can be clefted into two ways, that is what you are is a fool, or it can be called as inverted pseudo cleft, in a sense that a fool is what you are. Moving on to the second question, and it is a term used in sociolinguistics to refer to the range of languages or varieties of a language available for use by a speaker. So a language at a disposal for the speaker, each of which enables the speaker to perform a particular social role, is known as. Hence, the answer is option C, that is repertoire, and it is individual specific, that is it depends on individual to individual and it varies from individual to individual. What the repertoire of A will be different from the repertoire of speaker B. The question 3 is dash is defined as the part of a sentence which adds most to the advancing process of communication, or you can say which adds to the meaning. In other words, it expresses the largest amount of extra meaning in addition to what has already been communicated. So such part of a sentence is known as rhyme. For example, we have a sentence, my home is a beautiful place. So my home is a theme, we are talking about it, but what part of a sentence is adding extra meaning to it? Is the second last part of the sentence, that is a beautiful place. So is a beautiful place serves as a rhyme. The question fourth is a direct question, and here they are asking the abbreviation which is SAAD, and the abbreviation is simple, active, affirmative and declarative. Hence option C is the correct answer. Moving on to the fifth question, and it is asking about a term which is used in syntax and morphology both, and which refers to the phonological modification of grammatical forms which have been juxtaposed, and hence this term is option B, which is sandhi, which means joining. Hence it is a Sanskrit term for joining. The question 6 talks about the configurational languages. It's a very direct question. They are asking which of the following are configurational languages. And English in Hebrew serves as configurational languages. And what are configurational languages? This what you should know. Hence, languages with fairly fixed word order and hierarchical constituent structures are configurational languages. They are contrasted with the non-configurational languages which have a relatively free word order. Hence, English and Hebrew have a fixed word order, and hence they are known as configurational languages. The question 7 asks a basic term used in the theory of speech X, it refers to utterances which are descriptive statements capable of being analyzed in terms of truth values is called. Hence, such utterances are known as constrative utterance. Constrative utterances are again contrasted with performative utterance, and what are performative utterance, that we will look in the next question. Hence, a term used by philosopher J.L. Austin and now found in grammatical and semantic analysis, it refers to a type of sentence where an action is performed by virtue of the sentence having been uttered. They are expressions of activity which are not analyzable in truth value terms. Hence, in constitutive utterances, we saw that they can be analyzed in terms of truth values, but when we are talking about performative utterance, they cannot be analyzed in terms of truth values. Hence, option B is the correct answer. We have many examples of performative utterance. For example, I apologize you, I baptize you, or I promise. Hence, where saying means doing are performative utterances. Moving on to the second last question, and it is a term used in grammatical description to refer to the use of separate words instead of inflections to express the same grammatical relationship is called as. Hence, the term is known as periphrasis. For example, we have the English adjectives, and in which we have the comparison of adjectives which involves both inflection and periphrasis. In inflection we have for example adjective happy, and the inflected forms becomes happier and happiest in comparative degrees, while in periphrasis the periphrastic forms are more happy and most happy. So here we are using separate words instead of inflections. So periphrasis will be more happy and most happy. Moving on to the last question of the series, we have a term used in the theory of speech acts to refer to an act performed by making an utterance which intrinsically involves an effect on the behavior, beliefs, feelings, etc. of a listener. And the answer to this question is perlocutionary acts. When the speech act is doing an effect on the behavior, beliefs, and feelings of a listener. For example, the act of frightening, act of insulting somebody, or act of persuading. So hence this becomes perlocutionary acts. For example, a speaker is trying to persuade somebody and the listener gets persuaded by the speaker. Hence the perlocutionary acts gets fulfilled. So that's all for today. Thank you so much. Keep supporting the channel and also do share the video with your friends and classmates. Thank you.